Please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.
Hey everybody, welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast for Tuesday, March 23rd. I had to look at the calendar. I looked at the date there. Very busy week. So busy I don't even know what date it is. I just know it's Tuesday. So I had to be talking baseball with my good friend Fred Zinkie from RotoWire and of course Yahoo Fantasy Sports. And we both did our Tout Wars drafts this weekend. Fred, you are no longer defending NL Tout Wars champ Fred Zinkie. You are just Fred Zinkie. I'll have to say two catchers Zinkie. No, can I call you that anymore? Does that still apply?
It does not apply to that league. Although I would, if all my leagues were AL and NL only leagues, I would never have been two catcher Zinkie because that's not my. I'm a whole different approach in those formats.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I agree with that too, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So, got a lot to discuss. Let's jump right to it. Yesterday was a heavy news day, and that's not a good thing usually in our line of work.
Not this time of year.
No. Kirby Yates got a pronator tendon strain. He will be out for a few weeks at least, in a matter of several weeks. I'm really worried about it. I don't have him anywhere, so I'm not worried about my fantasy teams, but I'm worried for him, the pitcher, the person. I am worried about, but this is a big setback. You asked the question in our outline: should we still draft Yates? I say no, unless you can just park him on IL and you have a spot to be able to do that. If you're in the NFBC, he's on my do not fly list now.
Ooh, that's a bold one. If I had an NFBC draft tonight, I'd take him. I'd take him near the end. I can always cut him in the first fab run. I'd probably take him near the end and wait, so we got, 10, 12 days until that first Sunday night fab run. Mm-hmm. I'd wait till then, right? I think there's an NFBC fab run for leagues that have drafted. I think there's one. Is there one this coming Sunday? I think so.
I think there is, as a matter of fact.
So
there's been 6 main event leagues so far. And unfortunately, a couple of those people, 4 of those were over the weekend, and then we had, I think, one last night. He was drafted at 252, so he's still getting taken. That's in a 15-teamer in the main event. That is about Mr. Math is failing me, about 18th round.
17, 18,
18th round. No, I'm not there. I'm not doing it.
No, I'm not there. But I would draft him. I would draft him once we get to the point where I think that the other guys I'm going to draft, like once you're taking closer darts. The thing is, so he's going to eat up a bench spot in the NFBC for several weeks.
Who would you rather stash? A guy sent down like Bobby Witt Jr. or Kirby Yates? And I know I just interrupted you. I'm very rude that way. I just need to know this answer right now.
Would I rather stash Bobby Witt Jr. or Kirby Yates? I guess I'll stash Yates. That's a really tough one. I'll stash Yates because I think by like mid-April I'll either be able to just cut Yates or I'll have like probably a timeline. If I have no timeline by mid-April, then I'll just cut Yates. My concern with Bobby Witt Jr. is that I might hold him till June, and then he comes up, and then he's not that good the rest of the way. There is the concern now that Yates comes back too, and he's not the closer.
Well, that's the thing. I think, and that's why for me it's easy to say Witt Jr. Now, granted, we don't know relative cost. Right now, Witt Jr. in the main event is going for a lot cheaper. So from that standpoint, it's costing less. I don't like stashing, period, in the main. And in the NFBC format, I don't like doing it. I've learned my lesson too many times. Yeah, sometimes you get Mike Trout. More often than not, you get the next prospect coming, Erickson Profar or something like that. And he doesn't even get called up that year. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case with Witt. I think it's actually going to be closer to 3 to 4 weeks. I know they said they want to have him work on second base because it's not fair to call him up while he's learning a new position and he's only been playing for 2 weeks. Come on, he's a shortstop. He can handle second base. To tell me he wasn't playing any second base at the alternate training camp site last year, I call BS on that one. I think it's a 3-week thing. I think it's a manage the service time, and then he'll be up. I think he'll be very quick. I still wouldn't mind rostering him, but And the thing about Yates is we don't know how long he's going to be out. He's coming off the elbow issue that he had that ended his season last year. He pitched poorly before that because he was pitching hurt. I was already down on him because of the elbow issues last year. There's no reason to invest a top 10 closer pick on him, top 12 closer pick on him, given the risk. So I sound like I'm victory lapping here, and I probably am a little bit. I need to curb that. But point is, I don't know when he's coming back. If he's going to be free from setbacks. I think if he's like firing on all cylinders and pitching great, yeah, he'll close. That's what they signed him to do, and
Yeah.
But I don't know if we can presuppose those things and when we can do that. You might not close until July. Are you going to hold on that long?
Nope. So I agree. So any prospect with Witt, any prospect who you think is coming up by the end of April, beginning of May, I'll take that guy over Yates. I wasn't quite as optimistic on Witt. You're starting to push me in that direction. I'm not, like you said, I'm not a big stash guy anyways. And then because I was doing Tout NL over the weekend, I kind of put Witt on the back burner for now. I don't really, I'm going to get back to mixed league drafts this coming weekend. So, he'll be more of a factor again, but I kind of put him on the back burner. And it's weird, actually, almost all the stashable prospects I find are in the American League this year. So I didn't have a lot of those to make decisions on, but any prospect I think in April is appropriate. This Yates one's interesting in that the Blue Jays actually just went out of their way to say that Yates was their closer. I don't know, maybe like 4 days before this injury. So like they didn't see it coming. This isn't the Zach Gallen thing that we'll get into in a minute where like the team knew something was wrong and was working behind the scenes to determine it. The Blue Jays didn't see this coming. Otherwise, there's no reason to say Kirby Yates is your closer if you don't think he's totally healthy. So he's out. Like I said, I would consider drafting him in round 20 something, hold him for one or two waiver periods. If I don't have any information on a recovery plan for him, then I'll let him go. He may not come back to close. Now, how high are you taking Jordan Romano? Do you think he's the Blue Jays closer until Yates gets back and possibly beyond, or do you believe them when Charlie Montoyo says he's going to share saves?
I believe Charlie Montoyo because that's exactly what he did last year. He shared saves last year. Whether it was Asa Bass or whether it was Romano or whoever else that would swing in every once in a while, there wasn't the clear-cut closer. And then Romano had health issues of his own at the end of the season last year.
He did with the finger. I didn't. Now I will say that I felt like, just as someone who watches all the Blue Jays games, I felt like they didn't share closers as much as it seems, because I felt like Bass was their closer. Then Bass started to falter, and then Romano was their closer, and then Romano was done. So I just pulled up Romano's log. So he was not their closer, and then on August 21st, he got his first save chance, converted his next one, and then converted one 3 days later, and then so in 3 consecutive appearances he had save chances, and he converted the first 2, and then the third one he gave up a run and left that game and never came back last season. And if I bring up Rafael Dolis, his first save comes a few days after that. His second. Dolis picked up one random one. I can't remember every Blue Jays game, but he picked up one random one in August. But beyond that, beyond that, so say going into September, Dolis had made roughly 15 appearances and had just one save chance. So they weren't. I felt like Bass. I'm pretty sure if you looked it up in a game log sense, it reads like Bass with maybe one Dolis mixed in, and then a couple Romanos where it looked like Romano was the closer, and everybody was loving Romano. He's Canadian, and he was pitching great and everything.
Well, of course, he's Canadian. That's a boost, right?
That's amazing.
You get the guile right there.
Yeah, that's worth 5 saves right there. So, anyways, but then he was out for the season, and then Dolis was the closer after that, and then Bass came back, and then it was kind of muddled at the end of the year, where I think they felt like they didn't have a closer because they didn't really trust Bass as much anymore, and Dolis was doing fine, actually. He gave up his last run of the season. He gave one earned run after August 28th. So Dolis was fine at the end of the year. I think Romano and Dolis will share saves, but I really think this could quickly swing to Romano. I think he is the better pitcher of the two. watching Dolis pitch is a little bit excruciating. He walks too many batters and he works slow. Like, it's just
what's unlikable about that?
Yeah, you really sweat out the ninth inning with him. Like, I can't believe, as I pull up his game log, I can't believe he didn't give up a run for almost a month, because I feel like in that month, like, I lost hours of sleep just getting, like, if I go back and look, like, in that month, right, there's a lot of outings where he walked a batter, and I could just picture him in those outings, working slow. But anyways, he didn't give up a lot of hits. So, good for him. I think Romano's the better pitcher. How about, I should pull up unless you have it right in front of you. Let's look at maybe a pocket for him in ADP. Like his ADP from the main last weekend is kind of useless now, because that's not where he's going to go.
I'll tell you where Romano went the 7th round, though. Yes, last night. That might have been before the at pick 97. I'm only looking at the main event. There's only 6 main event drafts so far. So a range of 97 to 441 in 6 drafts. But obviously that one's before, one's after, and the 5 others are before. But
are before, yeah. So so let's compare him to some closers. I just pulled up the main event. I should have had that up before we even started. Like, how did I think we wouldn't use that today? Yeah. Right?
How dare you again? 2.0. But
yeah,
before that,
I've got my 6 mains up, so I'm going to scroll down a fair ways before I start asking these questions. So,
I obviously am not taking him at 97. So just so in case you wanted to know, but
no, I didn't. I didn't think you'd be the guy to take him at 97. So, would you take him over all the Phillies?
I've gotten cold feet on Archie Bradley. And especially now that there's 3 that are part of the picture here. That's the thing that I'm worried about. Right. It's not just Bradley and Neris. It might also be Alvarado. And right. That's a problem. So I might take him. I think I probably would take him over this.
Would you take, staying on topic, would you take Anthony Bass over him?
Yes. Yeah, I think he's got the job. I think
he does. Rafael Montero, then same theory.
Yeah, I don't trust Montero, but I have
Alex Colomé. They've kind of said they're going to share the job a little bit.
Yeah, I've been fading Colomé. Okay. I've been choosing Column B instead. Chris List joke. Yeah, put another dime in the jar, the tip jar there. But I want to go back to the Blue Jays real quick. I just want to laugh when everyone goes on tilt when Tyler Chatwood gets the first Blue Jays save. They've talked about
it could happen.
The quote from on Chatwood is, they said, "Be prepared to be in high leverage relief roles this year." That was back in February. This is before this happened. But point is, he was better as a reliever in 2019 with the Cubs. Only made 5 starts, but he was striking out a batter per inning. He was walking fewer, and with him, walks is the problem. Now, granted, you don't want a closer walking guy, so it's probably not too high of a case. A likelihood of him. In fact, I could see David Phelps getting the look instead of Chatwood. What if the Jays decide they want a veteran in that role? I mean, is it Phelps?
Well, I think they'd call Dolis a veteran. I know he hasn't pitched that long in the majors, but he's no spring chicken. I think
he's old.
I did see the Blue Jays refer to Romano as a future closer earlier in spring training in one of those interviews where they were like, "Hey, like, we've got a great experienced closer in Kirby Yates. He's our guy. Romano, we think, is going to be a future closer, kind of like he's just going to wait his turn right now." I kind of see the Jays probably going Dolis and Romano in the 8th, 9th in some order, and then Chatwood, Phelps, whoever else, if Julian Merriweather's in the bullpen at some point, those guys kind of being 7th, 6th, 7th, and then maybe sometimes if whoever's throwing well, if it's Chatwood or whoever, gets some 8ths. I would be surprised if it's. I don't think the Jays are full Rays where like anyone could go out for the first save chance. Like, I think last year, like I said, I did feel like they're pretty consistent. That it was like Romano 8th, Bass 9th, then Bass started to fall apart, and then it was Romano 9th and Dolis 8th. Then Romano got hurt, and then it was Dolis 9th, and just cross your fingers up until then, and be glad that they expanded the playoffs. But I think your sweet spot for Romano. It sounds like once we get into the 200s. Just from that main, Jake McGee, Matt Barnes, yeah, I think Amir Garrett, Daniel Bard. I feel like maybe that's where you start to hesitate and think, well, maybe I could put Romano into that group, because some of those guys will come out of this season with very few saves.
I will tell you, if the Reds decide on a closer and they announce it, I'm taking either Garrett or Barnes ahead of Garrett or Sims ahead of Romano, if one of them is named it.
Yeah.
Because I like both their skills a lot, and I think
so Romano fits in that group now of not named the closer, but could be the closer. Like I said, like Jake McGee, and that's where Garrett is right now, not named the closer. And then Daniel Bard's kind of his own entity in that group where he's been named the closer, but Colorado is just such a tough spot. So, but basically, you put him after Bass because Bass has been named the closer, and he's in that group now of because I mean there is a scenario where Jordan Romano gets 30-something saves this year, or Dolis, I guess. Where would you take Dolis? I guess him later,
30th round, like one of the other closers and waiting stabs. Which, by the way, we have something to talk about here, because it's time for closer tilt already. Texas, the Texas Rangers. Jose Leclerc is going to be out for a while with elbow pain. Might be all season, for all we know. He's going back to Texas to get examined. That's never good. Ian Kennedy is the closer, or Matt Bush. Two guys I added projections for over the weekend. I'm like, I can't believe I'm adding projections for these guys.
No, I feel like from I don't even think you can wait till round 30 in some of the main events on these guys. Like I think
on Kennedy you can't. Not at all. No.
I don't know if Matt Bush. If you can look up Matt Bush and see where he is, but I don't think
he's been taken twice at 328.3 and 448.
Right, so he's basically around 30. Like if you take that 328 out, you could wait till round 30 on him.
Sure.
But he seems, I don't know. Kennedy kind of feels like if you're going to make an obvious choice there, to me it kind of feels like Kennedy, doesn't it to you?
Yeah, I think so too.
So I know, that being said, I haven't seen Ian Kennedy pitch in spring training, and maybe he can. But just on name value and having a little bit of closer experience, he kind of feels like the guy to me.
Yeah, I think so. That's my lean too. Another situation where it's uncertain. The Pittsburgh Pirates, they kind of came out and said, we love Rich Rodriguez, but kind of like him better as a setup guy or ace reliever type. They sowed the seeds of doubt with him. Not anything about his performance. Everything to do with the role they decided to use him in.
Yeah, I've actually noticed that a couple of weeks ago. So looking ahead to later when we'll talk about our Tout Wars teams, I grabbed Kyle Crick, because the MLB.com Pirates beat reporter has kind of pointed to Crick as the pick to click, if you believe what they're saying. Now I shouldn't even be on after I did that.
That's not going to stick.
He's been kind of pointing to Crick as the most likely alternative if they don't go with Rodriguez. Nobody's debating that Rodriguez is a good pitcher. But the Pirates have been very careful to say we don't have a closer and we may like Rodriguez in other roles, and we know what that is. We know it's that high leverage. Sometimes the ninth, but when the meat of the order is coming up, whatever. And there's certainly not a lot of alternatives. And I grabbed Kyle Crick in the reserve round. I don't even like the idea of having. How about this? This is a big difference too. In a main event in a mixed league, the Pirates are going to be so bad. I don't even know how bad I want their closer. They're not going to be bad. They're going to be next level bad. And I don't even know if I want their closer. In an NL only, I totally will take their closer. If Kyle Crick could get me 15 saves, I'd be really, really happy about it in an NL only. But in a mixed, I just feel like maybe a few of these aren't worth the trouble. But the Pirates especially, maybe the Rangers too, just because these pitchers aren't great and the Rangers aren't going to win a lot of games either. I think people are starting to swing towards the Rangers being the worst team in that division.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm starting to hear a little more positive Mariners talking that maybe now the Rangers are the worst team.
Yeah, well, the Mariners have fun young players. The Rangers really don't.
That's right.
There's that. Padres, bane of my existence. They just kind of, Drew Pomeranz has been banged up. They've kind of been talking up Emilio Pagan as the guy, not Melanson, but Emilio Pagan. After I came out and said, it won't be Pagan, I'm getting whipsawed by him here, Fred.
Emilio Pagan it's not the Padres, it's Pagan. It's wherever he goes. If he gets traded tomorrow, he'll get traded. If he gets traded tomorrow, he'll get traded to the A's and just ruin all your Trevor Rosenthal shares or something like that. Like Pagan torments you. When you pick him, he doesn't close. When you don't pick him, he closes. But yeah, he's starting to, and that's another one where like if people were paying close attention to some of the beat reporters, they were saying earlier in spring training that it might be Pagan. There's a decent chance it would be Pagan. Everybody was looking at Melanson as the old veteran, but that Pagan was starting to look like the guy. And and then you throw in the Pomerantz injury, and now people are finally starting to swing that. Pagan, they were saying this, and Pagan was still going in the 300s. Yep. Now he's starting to now he's into the 200s. So now you're paying for the possibility that he's their closer.
Yep, that's right. So ADP is 250, 251, a range of 178 to 311 with Pagan. Ugh. And TGFBI have Pomerantz and both Pomerantz and Melanson. Pomerantz is slipping. He's down to 300th average player taken. Melanson, I mean, he's not even as good a pitcher. Melanson's going slightly earlier, but all three have been taken in all 6 main event drafts so far. So it just shows you the likelihood for frustration there, which is fun.
It's true. Like people are spending in those mains. Like I've been looking at the main event data this week, and like people are spending picks in the first like 20 rounds, like round 16, 17 on some of these players, and they may get like nothing from them. Like for example, you could maybe draft Pagan and Pomerantz. So maybe you rule out Melanson because he can't strike anyone out this spring hardly, but maybe you draft Pagan and Pomerantz, and maybe one of them is a good pick and the other one. Now the interesting thing with say Pagan and Pomerantz is if they're healthy. Pomerantz isn't the closer, you can probably still use them. Some of these other bullpens, like let's say Barnes and Ottavino, you could spend 2 mid-round main event picks on those two and say, okay, I got the Red Sox closer in here somewhere. The other guy, though, you're probably going to cut. I don't think either one of those guys are good enough to keep on your team as like a really skilled setup man. Yep, so you're basically throwing away, like if you took those guys around 15 and 18 or something, you're throwing away one of those picks right away.
Yep, that's right. So the thing of it, the funny thing too is, this time of year we're starting to see maybe some of these closer battles come into focus, but I feel like we've gotten blurrier, and that's really aggravating. I got a main event Thursday night, and I got my second. I'm doing 2 mains this year, Thursday night and then Saturday morning, and I know less than I knew a week ago, and that's not good.
That's right. I felt like in the tout drafts on the weekend that everybody left the draft room thinking that they had 1 or 2 closers, and we don't, but we all think we do. Like we've all got these pieces. Someone's like, I got Neris and I got Neris and Rodriguez. I got some saves in here, and like you might have none. You might have 60 or 70, but you might have none. Like it's like everybody left. You couldn't. I believe in those leagues right now. It's a really weird situation with closers. I don't think you could trade one. I think normally after a draft like that, I could go to someone and be like, hey, I got an extra closer. You don't have one. Do you want me to flip you one? This year it's so muddled that everybody thinks they might have 1 or 2 or 3.
Does that encourage you to invest in the more solid closers out there? Like I got Liam Hendricks in AL Tout, and I've gotten him in a couple other places. I'm pulling up. I'm actually going to look at your roster here in Tout and see what you did with closers. But you got Kenley Jansen. You got Kenley Jansen for 13. Fred, how do you do it? How do you get people to do you use Ariel Cohen hypnosis techniques to get people to say no on 14 to Kenley Jansen? How does that happen? My master plan is I bid on the players, and then sometimes the bidding stops on mine and I get them. That's the whole plan. But but no, I was surprised with that. I thought Jansen would be out of my range. He went for 17 in NL LABR a couple weeks earlier, and I used that as a bit of a guide. I thought I was going to get Hader, and I went to 21, I believe, and Tristan Cockcroft went to 22. Wow.
And I almost clicked 23 because I think Hader's such a good pitcher, but I was like, I already had Bauer. I don't think I had Luis Castillo yet, but I already had Bauer, and I was like, I just don't think I'm going to spend 23 on a closer. Anyways, in the end, I was okay with that because we'll see how Jansen works out. I'm not the world's biggest Jansen supporter, but honestly, with all these bullpens up in the air, at least for 13, which is a pretty reasonable amount, I got the best team in baseball's surefire April closer, and then we'll just see where things go from there. So like he could easily lead baseball in saves, and no one would be surprised this year. So
for sure,
yeah, I was happy with that. But your bigger picture question was, do I like to get one of those guys? Yep, I'd like to get one.
Yeah,
for sure.
Me too.
At least I'm not opposed to getting two. And then when everybody else is drafting Jake McGee and Matt Barnes and everything, like I can just grab more starting pitchers and more hitters who I know, won't leave me high and dry. That being said, I do understand the profit potential and in the big contests of going after some of these Richard Rodriguez type guys, because some of these guys are going to get 30 saves for the price of a 17th round draft pick, 16th round draft pick.
Right.
And my Aroldis Chapman's going to get the similar amount of saves, but I had to use my round 5 pick on him. So I do understand in a big contest thinking of the profit potential from these unsettled bullpens. In a singular league, though, I maybe just like to get my saves, and I'll spend everything else on other because it's not just the draft picks that you might waste; it's the fab you're going to waste.
Right. I think the AL closer pool is minutely more stable than the NL.
It is.
Maybe not even minutely so. I think it's more stable.
I think I counted 7 announced NL closers, and a couple of them are Bass and Bard, who I don't know if anyone trusts them really at all. So like that, I think there were 7, and those were 2 of them. So
I think
really,
that's reflected in the cost of the closers in the NL too.
Yeah.
NL tout at least certainly is the case where
yeah.
a lot of them. So, Brad Hand went for 12. He's another guy that I think he's stable. He's one of my stable ones.
Yep. Yeah. If I didn't already have Kenley, I probably would have gone 13 on Hand and gone with him. I took some. Now we're jumping ahead, but it's fine. But I took some like dart throws at Crick in the reserve round. I grabbed Jake McGee for $3 or $4, who I'm quite interested in, and Stephen Crichton, because just like the Pirate situation, the Diamondbacks have been very careful. They have not announced a closer.
Right.
Crichton, is him and Joaquin Soria are the options, it seems.
So especially with Clippard out with the shoulder issue. That's one less guy to compete.
So I grabbed Crichton for $1. So maybe everything will come together, and I'll have Jansen, and then these other guys will get saves too, and I'll have too many saves, and I can trade some saves, and that would be great. But if I didn't have Jansen, then I'd really be crossing my fingers on the other guys.
Yeah, that's right. We got some other news, but before we do that, we'll get on to the non-closer news. First, fantasy baseball is here, and you've got to check out these new best ball leagues on Underdog. Best ball is the ultimate test of your live draft skills, since they're not live draft skills, since there's no in-season management. That's right. Draft your team, and Underdog automatically credits you with your best performing players every week. You don't need to play the waiver wire or worry about trades. It's just the draft. Who doesn't love drafting? In Underdog Best Ball, you can draft as many times as you want because you don't have to do any roster management, saving you loads of time. Underdog's Best Ball leagues are drafting right now. Start at just $3. Once the season starts, Underdog also has daily fantasy and an all-new pick'em game. Go download the Underdog app now to get in on some best ball before the season starts. Enter promo code RotoWire with your first deposit, and Underdog will honor a money-back guarantee during your first month. Love Underdog or get your money back with promo code RotoWire. Search Underdog in your app store and enter promo code RotoWire. We've got articles up on RotoWire right now breaking down the Underdog game written by Dan Marcus, so check it out. If you don't already subscribe to RotoWire, go to rotowire.com/podcasts. When we return, more news items, including Zach Gallen news, which Fred and I are both dreading. Stay tuned. You listen to RotoWire Podcast.
Please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.